everyone! In this vlog I'll explain what happened to Jigglypuff and then I have a huge surprise for you. So a while ago I'd noticed that Jiggly was losing some weight. Most winter whites lose weight when they're around 1 year old, so first I wasn't worried at all. Then a couple of days before her first birthday I'd noticed she had this little bump on the side of her body, and that was a little bit strange, so I took her to the vet. The vet examined her and he told me that it probably was an inflammation or an abscess. She was eating and drinking properly and looked healthy, so he said that I just had to wait until the bump would shrink and disappear. But the bump did not disappear, and when I cleaned her cage on January 19th, I found this huge pile of food in her nest. And it shocked me that she wasn't eating properly. She was also awake on strange hours during daytime. The next day she was running in her wheel from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. In the evening I took her out to clip her nails. I gently touched her bump and she squeaked. I had never heard that sound before in my life and it shocked me. The bump felt bigger than before. So I decided that I need to get back to the vet. The next morning she was not awake when I put the food in her dish. I called the vet and they wanted me to come over with her at 2:30. So I was getting her carrier ready at 2:15, and at the moment I wanted to wake her up, I saw that the food in her food dish still wasn't touched. So at that moment I was starting to freak out. I lifted her house and there she was, cuddled up, already gone. It broke my heart. She was very special to me and then suddenly she was gone. It was unreal. Jiggly really was a sweetheart and I miss her every day. One day, when I'm ready, I will go get a new winter white dwarf because I really love having a winter white. And that was her story. So now I will reveal a huge surprise. A couple of days ago, my grandma came to me and she told me a story. Her grandniece, the granddaughter of her brother, had bought 3 hamsters last summer. She had 3 Roborovskis in one cage. You should not get trios of Roborovskis because they rarely get along. You always have to get an even number or in most cases they will fight. And that's exactly what happened. My grandmother told me that she had this one hamster who was separated from the others, and she asked if my grandma knew someone who wanted to have a hamster. I wanted to say no, because I wasn't ready for a new hamster. Besides that, I wasn't planning on getting a Robo. But I always wanted to try a Roborovski one day, and this was an opportunity. But I had cleaned out Jiggly's cage for a winter white someday. So basically it meant that if I was going to take that hamster, I needed a new cage. My grandma left the house and I thought about it all morning, and then I decided that I was going to do it. This hamster needed a new home. Now we're talking about this little girl who has no knowledge of hamster care at all. So I called my grandma and I asked her to call her grandniece and ask if she still wanted to give me her hamster. She called me back and she said that I could have the hamster that same day. So I bought a large bin and I turned it into a hamster cage with some help of a friend. And then I did some research about Roborovski hamsters. And then my grandma and me drove to this little girl to go and get the hamster. I brought my little carrier and I was really curious about the hamster. Is it a boy or a girl? What's the age? She showed me the hamsters and I saw this little Roborovski hamster in a very tiny wire cage. It looked a bit like this cage. The other hamsters had a slightly bigger cage, but this hamster was living in this tiny cage with only 1 centimeter substrate. It's about half an inch. It was filled with pine wood shavings, which are not healthy for hamsters. He or she had a food dish filled to the top, so it was probably only eating the things it likes. It did not have a house or hideout, and instead there was some fluffy bedding in the corner, which we all know can be very dangerous for hamsters. And there was a wheel, and that was it. So it felt like my duty not to leave this hamster behind. I asked them what the gender was of this hamster, and they told me that the pet stores told them they were all 3 females. But they did not even check the hamsters. The store had also not told them the date of birth of the hamsters, and they said they could easily put 3 hamsters in 1 cage. And they sold them fluffy bedding and pine wood shavings. It's just a terrible story. I asked the girl what she had named her hamsters, and she told me that they didn't have a name. She just called them hamster. I was so happy to take this hamster home with me. I drove back home and I put the hamster in its new cage, and it immediately started exploring the whole cage. It seemed so happy, it got me choked up. So last weekend I needed to figure out if it was a female or a male, and then I could give it a name. I managed to put the hamster, who is scared of humans, in a glass baking tray, and then me and my boyfriend could check it out and make some photos. We both guessed the same thing, but we wanted to make sure we were right. So I sent the photos to 2 hamster experts that I know here in the Netherlands, and they both told me that I was right. So I will reveal the gender of the hamster. And the next video will be an introduction of my new Roborovski. The hamster is a boy. So please stay tuned for the next video, who will be up next Monday. Then I will show you him, and I will show you his cage and the name I gave him. Thank you for watching. Bye bye!